your mouth, better add your respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off in my brain and I'm back to the bone.
Welcome everyone, we return with another night of the Kart Rider Drift League. We finally started our official first regular season, and things are already heating up. My name is William Cho, joined by Peter today, and because it is a Wednesday today, that means it's all team matches.
We love having a team match day because it means there's more story, because there's so many rivalries that we can delve into when it comes to these team matches.
Yeah, especially some of those matches today. We're going to have some ex-teammates clashing across the night, so we'll have to keep our eyes on that. Of course, we are now kind of wrapping up week 2. And Peter, what have you thought so far about the regular season?
Well, we've had 4 days of KDL so far, and I can certainly say that compared to the previous preseasons, the way the games flow feels really different right now. There's been a lot of meta changes with the different kart rarities, as well as new items in item mode, and it is making a really big impact.
Yeah, let's take a look at the overview of the tournament so far in case you've missed the launch of the season, because we do have some changes. So one of the biggest changes, of course, is we only have 2 days a week now, but that does mean the overall season gets a little bit extended, especially with things, like the wildcard stage, and then we have the redemption matches and the solos as well.
So what's interesting about the wildcard being added is that now it's not about just being in top 4. You kind of want to be in top 3, because if you finish 4th place, you have to play in that wildcard match an extra time. And also, getting 5th place is kind of like a bonus for the teams that are more struggling.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that extra chance. So, yeah, it's good news if you finish in 5th, because you get one extra chance to try to enter into the postseason, into the playoffs. But like you said, Peter, being top 4 no longer is good enough. You want to be top 3 to really secure your spot to try to get to the finals and eventually have a chance to get to that prize pool. I mean, it's gotten a lot bigger now that we're in the regular season.
It's definitely as big as it can get. You see all those numbers and the commas, then you know you want that champion prize pool. But of course, we also have a fan race MVP vote now, so every single match we will have the fans voting that MVP, which is a nice bonus.
Yeah, so approximately, or exactly 100 million Korean won, which is approximately, right under around 100,000 US dollars, depending on, of course, how you want to go about when we're transitioning that. But obviously this is held in Korea, so they will just get the 100 million Korean won split amongst the players. And we joked about this before, for some of the teams that have 4-player rosters, obviously they're going to have a little bigger piece of the pie. So maybe that comes into play as well when we get towards the finals. But that's the overview. Again, just team matches today, so we won't worry about the solo matches. If you're interested in that, we will return to those on Saturday. But let's take a look at how things have panned out so far in the past week. So 1 week before, that was our first Wednesday with all 3 team matches, as you can see at the bottom of your screen.
It was a day where it started off kind of being one-sided. We had teams going 2-0. But at the end, MIRAENSEJONG versus Always, I think this is the one that really surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, MIRAENSEJONG, again, this is some legendary players that regrouped under a new pro team banner, right, under the sponsor of MIRAENSEJONG. And a lot of people thought, okay, these guys are now going to be contenders to enter the finals, things like that. And then they lost their first match against an amateur team. It's not looking so good for them.
Not just an amateur team, but probably the most amateur team we have in the league right now. And it was kind of like the ace match where they lost it. And you can say any team can kind of lose an ace match, but it does really suck to have that loss as your first starting day.
Yeah, and like you said, ace matches, it comes down to the 1v1. But of course, we had more matches over the weekend as well. Of course, on Saturday, we had team matches and solo matches. So Always, they weren't as successful against NUTMITE, so they even out in their records. KWANGDONGFREECS looked looked a little iffy, but Seongbin returns in prime form in the ace match. A brilliant ace match, by the way. If you missed it, I'd go check it out between Desperado and KWANGDONGFREECS.
The funny thing about Guangdong Freaks is that they also struggled in preseason 2, although it may not seem like it because they won both preseason 1 and 2. But certainly that season 2 gave them a little trouble for their money, and that's happening again here. So you have to wonder, how long will this 4-man roster go unpunished?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So far, still just as successful. And you can see on the right side of your screens as well, the solo match results so far. That was Group B this past Saturday. Again, slight change in the solo match. So basically, it's kind of the same idea of top 3 are guaranteed to move into round of 16. If you're 4th or 5th, you have to enter another redemption match for one more shot to get into the round of 16. But we'll keep tabs on that every Saturday. Returning to how things are in the team matches, now that we've had a couple more results, let's take a look at the standings so far. And I don't think anyone's going to be too surprised to see KWANGDONGFREECS. They continue to reign supreme.
Guangdong Freaks is completely ahead of the pack right now. Seongnam ROX is the only team that has a chance to catch up today because they are now playing that second match along with MIRAENSEJONG.
Yeah, MIRAENSEJONG, of course. I mean, taking that first loss against a team that most would say they absolutely should have beaten in always. Now that means they're really kind of pressed for time, right? You only have, as you can see, there's only 8 teams, so you have a very set number of matches, and you have all these other pro teams left in front of you for Sejong. So teams like the ROX today and the Freaks, you know, and the Live Sandbox, these powerhouse teams. So MIRAENSEJONG quite desperate for that win, but I'm glad you pointed out, Peter, Seongnam ROX, of course, they are now in prime position to try to challenge the KWANGDONGFREECS. Taking a look at the fan predictions today. Okay, still a lot of good faith for MIRAENSEJONG in their match tonight.
Certainly seems like Seongnam ROX, despite having a pretty nice rebuilding, I would say, just the roster of MIRAENSEJONG really stand out. And on the side of Guangdong Freaks against NUTMITE, it's kind of hard to favor an amateur team over a team that's been constantly winning our KDLs.
Yeah, I mean, KWANGDONGFREECS, they won, you know, the team matches for both preseason 1 and 2, so they've been revving up all the way to the regular season. No surprise that they're the favorites. Now, going down to Desperado and FINALEe-sports, I mean, I gotta say, probably these votes are coming in purely off of individual results that we've seen so far of the rosters of both teams, but Desperado's had some surprising moments already in their 2 matches so far.
That's a great point because certainly in the standings right now, Desperado, they're sitting in 3rd place, FINALEe-sports. They do have 2 losses, so they're in 8th place right now. But just as you put it, the individual players from FINALEe-sports, they do have a more decorated player history career. So that is why we see that favoritism.
All right, well, without further ado, we will be kicking off our 3 matches tonight. Once again, it's 3 team matches, and our very first one, as they enter the stage with joy, it's going to be the newly revamped Seongnam ROX.
Seongnam ROX Esports, they've gone through a major rebuilding in their roster. Almost every single player here is completely new, and they haven't had well, they haven't played too much of the season yet to really say whether they've had a successful start or not. They do have at least that 1 win, and to get another win today against a team like MIRAENSEJONG would be the dream come true.
Yeah, it'd be huge, right? Especially because MIRAENSEJONG, again, individually very decorated, very historical players. I mean, yes, they're new in terms of the banner, in terms of joining under a new pro team that has now entered the KDL. MIRAENSEJONG as an organization was not part of the preseason. But you look at the individual history, I mean, right up front, you have Hero. Right behind him is his old coach and now teammate Hojun. I mean, all 4 of these players have been around for quite some time. And they're also trying to follow suit behind KWANGDONGFREECS and say 4 is enough in terms of the roster.
It certainly is when you have a player like Hojun, especially such a star in our KDL. And many of our fellow pro players are saying when they think of MIRAENSEJONG, the aura of having Hojun on that team is just really stands out.
I like what you did there because it's a mix of aura and sensation players. Like, I get it. Even if you didn't intend it, just ride with it. All right, we're going with it. Intentional pun.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, but overall, we'll take a look at the closer look of that roster. Now, what's interesting here is a lot of these players on both sides have actually played together during the preseason. So you'll take a look. You might recognize Bung over here on Seongnam ROX. He used to be known as Joker in preseason 2. He was picked up by Hojun to join Sensation, round out their new roster for preseason 2. Now they've parted ways. He's now joined as an opponent here on Seongnam ROX. And this is just jabbing a little fun at that ace match that MIRAENSEJONG had over on Miami Drive. Did not go so well if you watched it. A bit of a crucial risk play and a big mistake coming out from guard, and they that served them that first loss here for MIRAENSEJONG.
That is certainly not the day you want to remember as MIRAENSEJONG, so I love that salt being rubbed into the wounds there. But despite that unfortunate start, MIRAENSEJONG is a team that definitely has a bright future ahead of them right now. You can see a perfect description of them would be a team that has impeccable calmness. They are so good in speed battles.
Yeah, I mean, speed, absolutely. I think you can always favor these guys. Even if it's against a team like the Kwangdongfreecks, I think this is a team where you can say, no, I think they have a good shot, right, of competing in the speed mode. They have such storied players. Obviously, Hojin, used to be known as the Emperor of Kart Rider. Hero was one of the first Royal Roaders after so long. And now they're just saying, obviously, this is a matchup of two cities as well. So Sejong and Seongnam, both cities that are now sponsoring their own teams with, alongside other sponsors and kind of co-joining as these organizations, which is interesting to note, right? We've been seeing more of that here in Korean esports across different titles, and curious to see which city is going to come out on top tonight here at the KDL.
Well, you definitely want to impress your sponsors because that is the most important thing here. But of course, now we can go ahead and take a look at our speed track list, and it is going to be MIRAENSEJONG that won the coin flip. So of course they took speed priority because that's where they're strong at. Desert Construction Chaos, Terracotta Twister, and Shanghai Circuit were their pickups. The first two tracks are not that surprising. The Shanghai Circuit is the little kind of new ball in the park.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the other tracks are fairly veteran tracks. Handy Harbor is returning here to the KDL for the first time, but obviously as a track in and of itself, it's been around the Kart Rider universe for quite some time, and as most of these tracks have. But I'm interested that they took speed priority and then selected one of the most difficult tracks. It's as if they're trying to say, we don't care about item mode, we'll leave that up to the future, but we're making sure we shut you down right off the get-go because they want to take us to the chaotic world of Desert Construction Chaos. And the race begins with Seongnam ROX in red, and we have MIRAENSEJONG in blue.
And we see right now a fierce battle for that top 1-2 spot already, and it feels like the field is pretty even here in the beginning portion.
Yeah, I mean, Hero already a pretty hefty lead alongside Guard, and Hojin is close behind him to make sure to support. So Boong, I mean, he's doing what he can to try to make sure pressure is applied, and that's given some time for players like Navi and Looning to catch up. However, Guard just so far ahead, and you have to remember, both of these teams actually had just continuous 1-2, if not 1-2-3 finishes in their past team match.
And there's so much focus right now on trying to gather that control. You can see the midfield is ROX having a lot of control. In fact, Navi's going to take a huge lead there.
Yeah, Hojin actually scraping against the wall just a bit, and will have to make way towards Navi. Of course, a two-lapper, so no one taking any too big of a risk there on the 90 turns, but Looning with some great blocks on Hojin. Now it's up to Guard to try to shoot it. Looning bumps him again. The sweeping in second place is just impeccable right now, and Navi now with the hefty lead way out of draft range.
Navi has such a lead right now that there's a good chance he'll keep it up if Looning can keep up the support. But keep in mind that the midfield is heavily dominated by MIRAENSEJONG right now. Boong and Acidfly, they're so far behind.
Yeah, so right now, Boong, he just has to disrupt that midfield. Meanwhile, Navi and Looning, they have to hold on to 1-2. You can only imagine that the Seongnam ROX comms right now are just saying, you know what, just focus on the 1-2. We're not sure what we can do here from 7th and 8th place. And Looning, he's very close behind Navi. He is prepped to block whoever approaches just like he did right now.
Yeah, this is the portion of the track where everyone kind of has to slow down to avoid getting a huge collision. And of course, that opens up the room for Hojin to now come in. With that 1-2 gone, ROX is significantly behind.
Yeah, I mean, this is enough, right? If this just ends the way it does, but Hojin, he tried to slow down, but it wasn't enough. The speed a little too far ahead than he had imagined. He bumps into the corner. Now the 1-2 back in favor of MIRAENSEJONG. And I don't think it's going to be enough even if Hero tries to disrupt the 1-2. It will not happen. Seongnam ROX comes out ahead on the track pick of MIRAENSEJONG.
That was a incredibly unfortunate timing on that collision there from Hojin. And it was Hero at the end that tried his best to break that 1-2 from ROX, but unfortunately he couldn't. And what a great start from Seongnam ROX here to win speed round 1 against MIRAENSEJONG, who's good at speed, and also this was their track pick. They prioritize speed.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the start that you want to see if you're a fan of MIRAENSEJONG, and As for Seongnam ROX, now this is their 4th track that they've won in speed mode in team matches so far in the regular season. Of course, they took round 2 through 4 in their very first match against FINALEe, and all 4 track wins so far have been with a 1-2 finish. I mean, that just goes to show, again, it's been Looning and Navi that have continuously just stayed ahead of the entire pack. Looning, on your screen right now, of course, was the last champion that we had in the preseason for solo matches. So, goes to show, the confidence is there when it comes to speed.
Absolutely. Seongnam ROX off to a phenomenal start here on speed round 1. But now, speed round 2 continues in Village Handy Harbor. We get into the race right here. Now keep in mind, Handy Harbor is a track where if you fall behind, you can fall significantly behind. So teamwork is going to be crucial.
Yeah, and of course these shortcuts are so narrow as well, so there's a bit of a risk-reward play. But if you don't take those, you might as well be out of the race. So you have to make sure you time your turns correctly. And Acid Fly's putting on the pressure. He's cutting things close, but he's not losing too much speed. He hasn't bumped the corners just yet, and he's able to pressure Hojin. Hojin not able to get too far ahead for the time being. Acid Fly with a great drift around that final corner as we enter lap 2.
Acid Fly is doing a great job contesting MIRAENSEJONG's frontliners right now, and Seongnam ROX, they're now getting that midfield control as well. So Acid Fly, he's going to get that backup he needs.
Yeah, Acid Fly, all he had to do was try to play it safe, but he is going to drift a little too tightly, will eventually scrape the corner, but not to worry. Looning now in contention, a great sweep from Guard. Oh, Looning almost bumped against the corner there in the tunnel, but we're seeing a lot of collisions against these walls. As we know, once again, you don't lose your boost gauge anymore when you collide into the wall, so players are trying to be more aggressive both on the attack and the defense.
And Guard is doing such a great job sweeping right now. Acid Fly couldn't pass him by even once. Guard is always there to protect Hojin. This 1-2 is tough to get.
Yeah, and the out to in setup for Hojin as Guard. All he's doing is blocking Acid Fly, and Hero even bumps him out of the race. And it's going to be Hojin, Guard, and Hero entering in the 1-2-3. And there's something about these teams and the way they finish dominantly, because on the side of MIRAENSEJONG, the 1-2-3 is oftentimes how they would finish in their winning tracks in the first match, and it's returned once again.
I loved the teamwork there from Hojin and Guard that really allowed for this 1-2-3 victory to happen. It feels like Hero just came in at the end when the table's already set up. He just had to toss his spoon on there because Hojin, he had such a easy time focusing on his own lines because Guard was buying him so much space with all the collisions.
Yeah, no, Guard had a great block there towards the end of that 3rd lap, and Hojin was able to just set up for the optimal line going outside towards the inside, and Guard was just there to make sure that he blocks any sort of attack from the inner line. So great teamwork. I mean, it just goes to show again the 4-man roster, it's a powerhouse, because it used to be Nock, who was actually right behind Hojin in terms of overall average placings in the team match so far. Nock falls far behind. He's just playing the midfield. It's still the other 3 players that finish 1, 2, and 3. So now they trade tracks. We reset in a 1-1 scoreline here for the speed mode as we get ready for track 3. It is MIRAENSEJONG's pick of World Tour Terracotta Twister. Tied 1-1, we return to MSJ's pick. Can they make sure they get the lead this time around? All players just trying to make sure they not only do a little sweeping, but gather up all the boost gauges towards these long stretches in the middle of the track.
Terracotta Twister is certainly a track that's really hard to get too big of a lead on, because even if you get a significant lead right here, once you enter the tomb sections, things really start to change up.
Yeah, I mean, you can't play too aggressively in the tomb section. You definitely don't want to take that risk if you're ahead. So that does give an opportunity. Navi with a nice opening, but he doesn't have much backup just yet. So I gotta imagine that he's gonna be alone all the way through here. Guard losing a little bit of control there on those first couple turns. He's gonna drift a little too far wide, and he just has to make sure that he stays alive. He doesn't fall too far behind. He's still in 7th place, and it's going to be Looning, who's actually all the way far back. You can see on the minimap, and we see another bump back for Seongnam ROX. So again, it's not looking too good.
Yeah, Nox losing that advantage is going to be really hard. Acid Fly, he does manage to pass Hero, but keep in mind this 1-2 is having a significant lead right now, and Hero, he can once again try and go for the block.
Yeah, Hero, you can see, just look at the way he's driving. It's all just about sweeping, and while he does take the risk, he gets bumped back on that corner. That means guard is right there as well. I can only imagine the comms are so crisp right now for MIRAENSEJONG. Meanwhile, Hojin and Nok, I mean, they are just tied at the hip as they continue in that 1-2 position. AcidFly should have one opportunity here on the intersection, but it's not going to be too easy.
MIRAENSEJONG's completely dominating the field right now. Even if AcidFly breaks the 1-2, Seongnam ROX, they're stuck in that 5-6-8 position right now. It's looking so good for MIRAENSEJONG.
Yeah, AcidFly, I don't think there's an opportunity where you can do anything. If you're able to maybe sweep out, everyone but Nok, maybe then there was an opening, but another 1, 2, and 3 combo here for MIRAENSEJONG as they lead 2-1.
It feels like if you give that lead over to Hojin, he's always having that backup ready to go, and Seongnam ROX, they're really struggling to kind of match the backup that Hojin's been able to get for the teammates.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it right in their pose as well. All they're aiming for is going for that #1, and they're well on their way, at least in speed mode. Of course, even if they are able to close things out 3-1, we'll have to wait and see if the item mode has improved for this squad of MIRAENSEJONG. But so far, all smiles on their faces as they recover after a bit of a rough loss in the very first track.
It was rough, but given how things went in round 2 and 3 of Speed, I feel like all the momentum is starting to really shift towards MIRAENSEJONG. They just need one more track victory to close off Speed.
Yeah, and we will be awaiting our round 4, which is going to take us to Village Bayside Bridge Run. Another one where, you can just try to catch up as it's a bit of a field track. We'll wait and see if MIRAENSEJONG can close things out.
Our Speed round 4 kicks off in ROX's choice of track. ROX, they need to win this track to give us a best of 5 here. Because MIRAENSEJONG, this is match point for them.
Yeah, and for the first time in this speed mode so far, we're finally getting a chance to mention Boong, who was kind of missing from all the standings so far. But this time he shoots ahead, way out up front, just trying to apply pressure, make sure he sets up for Looning, who is going to be that star player, the speed ace, the runner here for Seongnam ROX. And Boong doing a great job. Navi now here to just try to disrupt the midfield as they pass the bridge.
ROX certainly doing a great job this time around, being the ones to control that 1-2. And you can see Hero and Hojin, their goal right now is to absolutely break this. But Guard and Nok, they do seem to be winning against AcidFly.
Yeah, but Boong is just doing a great job of blocking out any sort of attempt to enter into 2. He even tried to do a bit of a stop there on that last corner, but Hero's going to find an opportunity, doesn't lose too much momentum. And as we enter the last and second lap here, it's going to be Hero in prime position to contest against Looning, and now it's up to Hojin to try to block off for support.
Hojin had a great block on Boong there, but the fact that he has to block both Boong and Navi is going to force him to once again focus on his own lines here. They did deny that 1-2 from ROX right now. MIRAENSEJONG looking really strong with this Hero and Hojin duo.
Yeah, and Hojin, now he's split off the attacks from Seongnam ROX. He just has to play these 1v1s, Hero against Looning as well. And Hojin's constantly trying to find the draft to apply extra pressure, trying to see if they can get the 1-2 themselves. Hojin's just repositioning for an optimal line as we enter the last couple curves.
Looning with the Hero play right now. He was able to take back the first place. Blocked out Hero
Hojin!
So many times.
Oh, meanwhile, Looning and Hero both taking that inner side, and Hero's just going to take a bit of a too sharp of a turn. He will lose too much momentum, and meanwhile, it will be Looning finishing in first, and then it's the 1, 3, 4, and 6 for Seongnam ROX for a hefty point lead, tying things 2-2.
The track choice for Seongnam ROX came in clutch here. They navigated Village Bayside Bridge Run so optimally. It felt like they were ahead of MIRAENSEJONG as a team overall. There was too much pressure on Hojin and Hero to perform, and Hojin at the end, he took a big collision, and that was the end.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit rough. I mean, Hojin was doing what he could, but obviously a huge collision into the wall, loses all momentum, and then he has to reset a bit too late into the track. Meanwhile, Looning continuing his supremacy in this speed mode team match, and that brings us to the set point here, round 5, and this was the track we talked about. Not one you would have expected for a lot of these veteran players coming in from the preseason. But with the addition of WKC Shanghai Circuit, it is going to be MIRAENSEJONG who have selected this for round 5. They believe they can overcome this 2-2 scoreline to win out speed mode against Seongnam ROX. And we're off for the last track of speed mode between these two teams. Whoever wins will be leading in set point in this team match.
And we see right now Boong having a phenomenal start, having such a huge lead. And of course, it's Hero and Hojin again to try to contest.
Yeah, and as it goes with a lot of these WKC tracks, it's wide open field tracks with a lot of these shortcuts across the grass, but you have to make sure you time your drafts and your boost correctly because you are going to lose a little bit of speed there on the grass.
And also the midfield having a ROX just so dominantly sitting there right now. I'm sure Navi's going to catch up soon to apply some pressure to Hojin, but Hojin's able to expertly dodge out.
Yeah, I gotta say, the way in the back, as we're seeing in our picture-in-picture, there's not too much of a chance so far from Guard and Nog to try to overcome. So a lot of pressure on Hojin right now to get up to Hero and make sure they find an opening for a 1-2 finish.
And Hero did finally catch up to Boong to get in for that draft range, but it doesn't change the fact that Seongnam ROX is doing so good right now here as a team. Boong refusing to give up that first place.
Yeah, meanwhile, in the picture-in-picture, finally we see Guard in range to draft off of Looney alongside Nog. Can they overcome that? Because if they don't, it's all up to Hero and Hojin. If they don't get the 1-2, there's no shot that MIRAENSEJONG can win this track.
And that's the gameplay right now. We're seeing Seongnam ROX really do. They refuse to allow Hero to get in place.
Oh, Navi with an excellent 1-2 block across the hairpins. Gets a double block against Hero, and Hero is knocked all the way back into 8th place. Nok will do what he can for any sort of redemption. He's trying to sweep and stop all the players of ROX, but he can't do that on a field track like this. And eventually it is going to be Seongnam ROX who wins speed mode against MIRAENSEJONG.
This was the best way Seongnam ROX could have shown us today, their second match of the season, being able to win speed here in their opponent's choice of track at that, coming in with the 1-2-3-4 finish, really shows off how good this team is.
Man, I mean, that double block coming out from Navi, that's my MVP for that round because it was just expertly placed around the hairpins. I mean, Hero, he tries to recover from the first one, but he can't on the second bump, and he loses all speed, goes all the way down to 7th place. Same with, Hojin, who was up there alongside him, but it was a 2v4. I mean, you got to give credit to ROX more than anything because they were able to make sure they controlled the midfield, and eventually they just kind of piled onto the two racers coming up from MIRAENSEJONG.
And you can really see how nervous Boong was there, all the pressure he had and trying to maintain that first place, because Boong definitely was the hero for Seongnam ROX along with Navi in the sense that it was him that kept that 1-2 condition away from MIRAENSEJONG for such a large portion of that track.
And now we will see a bit of a roster swap here for Seongnam ROX as they get prepared for item mode. Their item ace Lens will be coming in, and Acid Fly will be sitting out here for the item mode. Lens, he's always been known as a strong item ace player. Wait to see if he can continue to prove his worth as one of the few item aces on these pro teams.
And of course, on the side of MIRAENSEJONG, they do not have an item ace. They completely rely on their 4-man roster that they utilize in speed. And it's been a weak point for MIRAENSEJONG when it comes to item mode, so you have to wonder if they can turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to, right? They banked on speed mode. They went all in. They started off on a difficult track, and they still were not able to come out on top. So now, comes down to item mode. Seongnam ROX, of course, will have that first pick in return. And we're seeing, a lot of teams still trying to pick up on some of these graveyard tracks that have entered here for the regular season. But MIRAENSEJONG, they're going to stick to the tried and true Glacier Polar Halfpipe for the second round.
And you also got to keep in mind that Seongnam ROX, they've chosen 2 3-star difficulty tracks, whereas MIRAENSEJONG also took 1 3-star. So it is a pretty nice mix of both. We're seeing that neither teams are really scared of the new meta around the new items.
Yeah, of course, with the new items only appearing on those 3-star tracks, things like the Siren that really let you play much more aggressively. And then you even have the scanner where you can get a bit of a look into the opponent's arsenal. We'll see how that comes into play, but for now, we start with a 2-star track. It's going to be Graveyard Dark Castle.
We kick off into the race here in Graveyard Dark Castle. Our first 2 tracks of item mode are going to be a 2-star difficulty, so we are not going to have those new items around.
Yeah, so it's just going to be the old set of items, but with the higher gears, again, overall, the tempo has gotten a lot faster here for item mode, which means tempo play in terms of the meta has been the go-to for most times. I mean, if you have a wombo combo set up, sure, use it in the 3rd track, but you can't just wait until the 3rd track anymore.
And I love how ROX really recognizing that it is important to stay ahead. Had a really nice dodge there on the water bomb. It felt like it might have hit every single player from ROX, but they dodged it so well. And now you can see that lead really starting to build here for Navi.
Yeah, I mean, Navi, he gets slowed down a little bit by the UFO, but Lens is still there to provide a little bit of support right behind him. He's even got double missiles, right? So if anyone gets ahead of him, tries to contest against Navi, they're going to have to deal with Lens's attacks. Guard getting sent all the way back with a little bit of a spin out. A nice hit onto Hero, and Hero continuously just not able to accelerate once again. And it's a 1-2-3 lead in terms of just pure speed here, and we're in item mode.
That water bomb was way too huge for MIRAENSEJONG to recover from knock. He's going to throw a bomb of his own, but he's too far behind to actually connect, and now it's up to Hojin. He's got a missile.
Yeah, but he gets stopped right outside of the teleport to another water bomb as well. Things are not looking great for MIRAENSEJONG as we get ready for lap number 3. And Navi and Lens, they are just piling shield after shield, dodging all sorts of attacks. They even have double Guardian Angel over on Navi. Unless you're able to get a couple more magnets, maybe another UFO, something that can attack without being disrupted by shields, MIRAENSEJONG, it's looking a little dicey. They have caught up, but they still don't have a good answer against Lens and all the shields he's been picking up.
Lens, he picks up another shield here. You can see MIRAENSEJONG, they're holding on to an EMP, not very helpful. Hojin, he did manage to throw out the water wisp, but it got shielded out.
Yeah, but here comes the UFO. It's going to slow him down to the last 300 meters, and Lens, he's just desperately trying to get ahead. The wisp gets blocked by the Guardian Angel. Can he body block them and cross the finish line? He will, and Lens will bring home the first round victory in item mode for Seongnam ROX.
What a heroic play from the item ace of Seongnam ROX. It felt like the whole match was dependent on whether Lens was able to finish first or not, but that Angel coming out and the shield right after, everything was timed so perfectly. The defense of Seongnam ROX really shined in this match.
Yeah, I mean, once again, this is where that, the higher upgrades, the more gears that we have for our car bodies comes into play. The higher top speed, the higher acceleration, even some of the better boosts depending on how you switch it up. Now, we have seen players, they're a bit more varied when it comes to item mode upgrades, but at the end of the day, if you're able to get a hefty lead, that tempo pays off in moments like this. Unless you have just a crazy, massive wombo combo, you don't have a good answer to that because you have to use everything to barely catch up as MSJ did.
And I honestly feel like MIRAENSEJONG, they did have a nice response. Just that Seongnam ROX was always a step ahead of them, but now they have a chance for redemption here in round 2 in Glacier Polar Half-Life.
Another 2-star track here to kick things off in item mode. Currently, Seongnam ROX leading 1-0, so no new items. But again, you can't let Seongnam ROX get too far ahead like you did in that first round if MIRAENSEJONG want to have a better hope of keeping this match alive.
And if there's something we know about Glacier Polar Half-Life, it is that there's this ramp here that you kind of boost off, and you can see if Hojin and Navi get stopped out by a water bomb, things like that on the third lap can be really devastating.
Yeah, meanwhile, way up front, we have Guard and Lens, both of them some hefty defensive items. Guard surely going to cycle out at least one of those EMPs. He's actually going to get denied one of the items there. And so Guard, he's going to have to wait for another round here, and he's going to slow down just a bit, make sure Lens can't block him from another pickup. But once again, just left with one singular EMP for Guard after cycling.
And certainly we are seeing right now Guard, he does have the magnet for catching up when needed. Boom. He's holding on to no defensive capabilities, so Lens is going to have to absorb a lot of this aggro here.
Yeah, Navi, meanwhile, he had the double boost all the way in 8th place. He used one to cycle, picked up another one. Now he's set up. He could even try to take the shortcut right now if he so wished. He is going to get spun out, so he falls all the way far behind. But he'll catch right back up. Yeah, he used one to get onto the shortcut. He's still got another one. So now he's set up for a variety of plays. Oh, he's going to fall off after the spin out. That's going to push him back far, far behind.
And MIRAENSEJONG, you can see that they've been holding on to those 2 magnets for quite some time. So you can see that there's a lot of strategy on the side of MIRAE to have that catch-up potential if needed, as we see Knock and Guard leading without much defensive capabilities.
Yeah, if Hero just gets close enough, I mean, Guard can jump up onto that shortcut, and then Hero can try to catch up to him with a magnet of himself. Make sure they have double up on that shortcut. They have a Guardian Angel as well, but lots of boosts across the board. Hojin with 2 of his own as well. No one too concerned here from the front, but we're going to see Hojin. He uses one to get ahead. He's still got another boost, but there's 2 members right behind him. Boong actually shoots forward, all of them with the nitrous. We don't see any strong attacks. Hero has to land that magnet. Does he get it on the opponent? He's going to be able to catch up, but not enough. Boom, with the body blocks, Guardian Angels and shields across. Boom, another shield, and it's going to make sure he crosses the finish line in first place, now leading 2-0 in item mode.
The fact that Boong had a Nitrous at the end there was so crucial. He was sitting on a Nitrous and a shield, and just before he hit the final item box, he did utilize that Nitrous, and that gave him the little advantage he needed to finish first here for ROX. And Seongnam ROX now leading 2-0 in item. This is really scary for MIRAENSEJONG.
Yeah, and here's the thing, it's not just about Hojin, right? All four of these players are MIRAENSEJONG. They have such storied careers. And we got to remember, MIRAENSEJONG actually won the event match that was going on down in Daejeon, right? For the Kartrider Drift Invitational that they had with a couple of these teams. Such a good showing ahead of the regular season. And now if they start their season 0-2, and mind you, sure, Seongnam ROX is a pro team, but they are not the Kwangdongfreecs or Live Sandbox, right? It's not like, okay, these are matches you were probably going to lose anyway. These are matches that MIRAENSEJONG were somewhat expected to win. And if you start with a 0-2 record, your hopes for the postseason are looking pretty dire.
But they still have some hope left in the team MIRAENSEJONG. They just need to win 3 tracks in a row, back-to-back in item mode. And that first set needs to begin here on round 3, held in World Tour Venice Gondola Tour. We get into our item round 3. This is a match point for Seongnam ROX. If they win this track, then Seongnam ROX is going to go home with a 2-0 win in sets. MIRAENSEJONG, however, they need to win 3 rounds to take us to an ace match.
Yeah, and we already saw that Siren come out into play right off the get-go. Again, we are now on to our first 3-star track of the night, which means some of these new items like the Siren, the Big Banana, and the Scanner will be coming into play.
And you can see Hojin, he takes a big lead for himself there, but the missile's going to catch him off. And Hojin, he's holding onto a Siren, and I'm sure he's holding onto it for a more opportune moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's one item you can use both aggressively and defensively. We saw Hero use it earlier to block off, you know, some of the struggling players here from Seongnam ROX. So I imagine Hojin keeps that for quite some time. No real need to use it just yet. The scanners are coming out, so they have some better ideas. Hojin now choosing to cycle. Make sure that the tempo is kept for guard. More than anything, that Siren there was used to make sure they keep the lead. Meanwhile, Lens, he tried to go for the shortcut, but he's going to just have to take the wider angle here.
Yeah, Hojin was holding onto that Siren for so long, but he used it at a perfect moment. Now Lens forced to utilize the magnet in order to catch up. Guard with so many shields, it's impossible to stop his flow right now.
Yeah, Hojin, it looked like he was just trying to cycle through, see if he can get some other items to support his teammates right now. I mean, sure, the barricade is there, but it's not going to serve too much purpose. Meanwhile, Looning with a Siren and the Lightning Bolt as well as we get through halfway of the last lap.
That is certainly a scary Lightning Bolt. MIRAENSEJONG, they don't have any Angels, and we're already on the final lap. As we see Lens, he has a significant lead. Hojin has a lot of catch-up to do.
Yeah, Hojin was able to at least land onto that shortcut, get the extra boost. The attacks land on Lens as well, and Hojin right behind him. Now it is going to be about those items. Now Guard does have a UFO. This is something that MIRAENSEJONG, they can try to line up perfectly. The water bomb first. The shield was a little late, but so does Hojin. He gets spun out as well. And now Boom already in place to try to recover. Hero overtakes him. Oh, the shield not able to block all the attacks simultaneously as we see so many team attacks coming out at once. Everyone's spinning out, but Hero is able to barely make it in between the barricades. Will recover that victory and keep MIRAENSEJONG alive.
Those barricades were so perfectly timed that it kept throwing off the tempo in the front lines, and it felt like ROX, they might have been able to finish it off, but more attacks came in, and in the end, it's Hero who was able to remain focused and break through the defense of Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, oh man, that shield from Hero, I was a little scared, right? He used it to try to dodge one of the attacks, but the barricade comes in as well. And he's not able to block everything at once. He's going to get bumped back by the barricade. But I think, you know, he was happy with that, because if he had gotten spun out by the rocket, then he would have lost a lot more speed. He's just able to recover around those other barricades. Meanwhile, Lightning Bolts coming up from MIRAENSEJONG in the last second gives him one more opportunity for Hero to edge things out in round 3. Now trailing 1-2 in item mode.
Well, that's the first step that we kind of wanted to see. And now the second step needs to be taken here. The round 4, MIRAENSEJONG needs to win. And it is their track of choice here in Factory Cogwheel Crush.
Kick off round 4 on another 3-star track, and if we are able to go all the way to track 5, we will continue the trend of these 3-star tracks with the new items. Now, MIRAENSEJONG, they found some good success with those items like the Siren in the previous round. Curious to see if it happens again here in round 4.
And we're seeing right now that Guard has been holding on to those double shields for quite some time, so I wouldn't be too surprised if we see Guard actually getting a huge lead off this start here. Lens, he does have a magnet to catch up.
Yeah, Hero, meanwhile, with a Magnet Boost combo already. I mean, you could easily use this from the get-go just to keep some tempo, or if someone like Lens gets ahead of him, something to just draw him back, make sure Guard with a double shield is going to be able to keep that lead. Knock with a nice Siren block. Meanwhile, the attack's now coming out for Lens. Guard continuously being set up by his teammates to just stay in first place. The double shield's paying off so well as he blocks off 2 Wisps in a row.
And Guard was expertly able to pick up 2 item boxes just now, so he's once again going to have 2 shields up his arsenal. He's able to dodge out all these water bombs and missiles like they're coming at in such a slow pace.
Yeah, finally another UFO is going to be what slows him down. So it took 2 UFOs to just barely catch up to him. Now Lens in position, but he's going to get spun out. That means Guard starts to shoot far forward again with another double shield. Unless you get another magnet or a UFO like you did just now, you're not going to slow this guy down.
It's looking really rough right now for ROX. Navi, he picks up a missile, but Guard, he has 2 shields once again to respond. And Navi, he gets a hit by an attack.
Yeah, okay, so now we do have 2 magnets on the side of ROX. One gets used right now, but you still have another one and a magnet boost combo. That's going to be the answer here for Boom. No EMP in sight for MIRAENSEJONG. Hero does have his own combo as well. Now it's all about the timing. It's going to be a game of chicken. And what is this? Guard actually just allowing him to get ahead because they have the UFO. They wanted to try to see if they can maybe draw out some of those other defenses. Boom's just going to eat it.
And Looning right now, he's going to be able to take that shortcut in the middle. In fact, 5 of the players do. So it is going to be a contested round here. Hojin, he's holding on to no item besides the boost. And now the magnet is going to connect on Hero, but that's not enough. And MIRAENSEJONG finds a response here in round 4 of item, tying us 2-2. Taking us to that round 5.
Yeah, really good setup, right? Hojin, he has the boost and the Guardian Angel, so he uses both to make sure they don't get hit by other attacks. That allows Hero to then magnet boost off of Hojin. So even though Hero also gets magneted from behind, it's enough momentum to shoot him forward before he gets drawn back, loses that acceleration, and he's going to cross the finish line first. Now tying things up, and Peter, you said it. It was a simple 1-2-3 step here for MIRAENSEJONG to try to catch up, and they've done 2 out of 3.
MIRAENSEJONG, they certainly don't want to go home today, starting off the official season of KDL with a 0-2 start. This is the most important time of the year for our pro players here. You can see that right now reflected in Boom, really praying that they don't go to that ace match.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, because it comes to the ace match. You don't know who's going to enter from MIRAENSEJONG. All 4 players are quite formidable. We'll have to find out as we go to the last item track. It is going to be Mine Mother Load.
This is the most important track here in item mode. Seongnam ROX desperately wanting to close it off before we get to ace, whereas MIRAENSEJONG, they need this to get that one more chance.
Yeah, so if you've been following the KDL, obviously if you've been playing the game as well, you're going to be very familiar with this track. But again, the new items are now in play, as this is considered a 3-star track despite being a 3-lapper. So it's going to be a bit of a marathon with all these items being fired off back to back.
And we're seeing a lot of Sirens being held here. I love the timing that our players have been utilizing the Siren for. They seem to use it to knock their opponents in the most unfortunate timings of the tracks, where if you get set behind, you really fall behind.
Yeah, especially some of these corners, right, where you're just going to have to even lose extra speed to try to recourse yourself and your car. And a lot of times these Sirens are used purely as a defense mechanic more than anything, rather than trying to shoot far forward. So it's a lot of these kind of midfield players or the second place players that are using it as a sweeping tool. We've seen a lot of success there. Now, a lot of wisps and shields, so I imagine these are all going to be traded back and forth at the front of the pack.
Lens was able to block out that attack with a shield of his own, but Hojin took a expert maneuver on the shortcut there. Now he's gonna take that lead. I like that he's holding onto a shield and a EMP. He has a lot of defensive options.
Yeah, he purposely coursed himself to make sure he gets double items, tries to deny the extra item pickup, but also gets these extra defensive choices. Already used the shield, he's able to keep that speed. Boom, meanwhile losing everything on the spin out. And the Magnet's gonna get EMP'd as well. Hojin now playing for the tempo play, still has another EMP and a shield, uses the EMP again, and the shield to block off all attacks. He is way far ahead, and what a water bomb on Lens as he tries to catch up with the Magnet.
That was certainly a good timing on that water bomb. Now so much pressure on Navi to catch up. You can see MIRAENSEJONG, they are controlling this top portion of the field so well, giving so much space for Hojin.
Yeah, so many EMPs, so many shields on the side of MIRAENSEJONG. The Guardian Angel was just used as well. Hojin with another shield of his own. The Wisp not going to hit. Now this time just the banana. He finally gets slowed down. Isn't enough though as Looning gets spun out. He cannot keep the acceleration. Double items. We do have a rocket, but now Hero alongside Hojin, and he's got the boost ready to go. So Hojin just trying to eat whatever attacks he can. That just set up Hero for an opening to boost forward.
And Hojin with the shield there is going to be able to block out the missile. We see Boom was holding on to a Magnet right now. ROX trying to catch up with the Magnet, but it's not enough. Hero comes in first place, and we do have MIRAENSEJONG with the reverse sweep here, taking us to that ace match.
And this is where the mind games happen, right? Without that scanner coming into play for Seongnam ROX, it seemed like they targeted the Magnet onto Hojin, who was in first place. They wanted to get maximum acceleration, but that just meant that Hojin just resets. Meanwhile, it's Hero who is able to use his own boost to just gain that extra speed. Cross the finish line first. Hojin happy to be the sacrificial lamb if it just means that they are able to get to an ace match.
What a turnaround here. It felt like MIRAENSEJONG, by the time we got to that round 2 of item, that they may be going home as a sad team today, but they were able to pull off the impossible with their backs pushed against the wall. And now when it comes to an ace match, although MIRAENSEJONG, they lost their first ace match, they are still a team that really accelerates in this role.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to remember that previous ace match, so Guard entered that ace match, and it had been 2,846 days since his previous ace match, right? That's several years. So maybe we cut him a little bit of slack. I gotta imagine today, with the very high chance that it's Looning who's going to be entering from Seongnam ROX, of course, as the preseason 2 champion of solo matches. It's probably Hero or Hojin, but I'm curious. Probably depends on the track. Is it going to be Hero, who was kind of the rising star after Hojin, one of the rising stars after Hojin, trying to become the next Emperor? Or is it going to be Long Live the King Hojin, trying to reclaim his throne?
I definitely agree with you there that Looning is going to be the player from Seongnam ROX most likely. And just as you put it, MIRAENSEJONG, they have so many players that are capable of this ace match here. So many decorated players that they can pretty much take a pick based on confidence. Just a matter of, hey, today is a really important day for us. Who feels ready and excited to play this ace match?
Oh, I'm curious. I mean, I think there's a good story either way, right? If it's Hero and Looning, it's kind of these two guys who have been these rising stars. Hero perhaps a bit more storied because he is known as one of the few Royal Roaders in the original Kart Rider League. But if it's Hojin, it's about putting himself on the line to defend their future here in the regular season, because if they start 0-2, their chances of even entering 5th for the wildcard match suddenly look a little bit troublesome.
That's why today is such an important match for both teams, but especially for MIRAENSEJONG here as we take a look at the track for ace match. It is going to be Desert Construction Chaos.
All right, we return to the very first track of the night. This is track 1 in team speed mode. Now that time Seongnam ROX got the 1-2 finish. And there were quite a few aggressive plays from both teams, but it's going to be ROX who came out on top. Now we have to remember, in a 1v1, not as many chances, right? It's more about the mind games, the pressure you put on each other, and it is going to be Hojin. So it's going to be the OG Emperor himself trying to defend the throne here for MIRAENSEJONG. Meanwhile, Looning says, you know what? your days are over. It's KDL time. I've already gotten the champion title in preseason once. Sure, it doesn't count for your overall career of official seasons, but Luning's tried to continue the same success here against Hojin in this ace match.
A perfect matchup between a classic veteran who's been around the kart rider scene for so long and continues to be a top player here today in KDL against Luning, one of our rising stars as we get ready to enter ace match here in Desert Construction Chaos.
And the ace match begins. Let's remember, back in preseason 1, Luning actually had a chance to compete against Hojun in an ace match, and he came out victorious. So if he can do it again, it's continued success of proving himself as one of the best 1v1 racers here in the KDL.
I'm sure the confidence is high on both sides right now. As we take a look at the heart rate monitor, Luning's heart rate is in 161 while Hojin's below 100.
I mean, this is where that veterancy comes into play, right? Surely, in some ways, there's more pressure for Hojin. He has much more to lose in this ace match, but he just says, this is just another day for me. I've been doing this for, over 10 years pretty much of competing here at the top level of kart rider. So Hojin just maintaining his posture. Luning trying to play aggressively, and Hojin happy to just let him get by for now.
Yeah, Hojin definitely doesn't have anything to lose off of that because he's still healthily in that draft range. So Hojin's just making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes by hitting a wall.
Yeah, he's just trying to make sure he doesn't repeat what happened in the team speed mode. Now both of them kind of neck and neck in terms of boost gauge. As we see Hojin, he was happy to let Luning get ahead towards the end of the first lap, but now we're going to start to see him make his play as we enter lap 2.
Hojin really is trying to build up that lead right now, forcing Luning to play the catch-up. A lot of pressure being applied right here, but Luning, he's still within the range to draft, so he's applying that pressure back onto Hojin.
Yeah, and Hojin's just trying to play the stop game, but eventually, yeah, he's going to find that extra boost. So he was waiting for Luning to use those extra boosts that Luning so desperately got to try to make sure he catches up to Hojin. He stops him, gets his own second boost right on time, is able to keep the lead. Now neck and neck again, but Hojin, oh, this time he plays aggressively. The conditioning from lap 1 coming into play.
Such a clean line from Hojin right there. Now he's going to be able to take the lead, as well as a bit of a boost gauge difference. He's leading right now in front of Luning.
And Luning, does he play aggressively around the 90 degrees? No, he can't make that risk, and Hojin, he makes another sharp turn to make sure he blocks Luning and make sure Luning doesn't have a shot. Luning will have one more opportunity if he's able to get the draft once they land here from the jump, but Hojin's trying to line himself up, make sure he can block anything, and another nice sweep from Hojin to make sure the outside turn does not come in from Luning. What a read, such awareness from the veteran himself, the king. Can he return in the regular season of KDL as he brings home the first victory for MIRAENSEJONG?
The veterancy of Hojin right there, having a perfect read, just like you said, Will. Luning, he went for such a nice play, trying to utilize the draft range, but Hojin was able to block in such a perfect time that Hojin, it just feels like he won in both the mind games and the race today.
Yeah, and it's just this awareness, right? Once they landed, Hojin goes for the first block on the inside. Once he knows he's blocked off Luning, instead of just trying to say, okay, let's just boost and try to maintain top speed, he understands that the acceleration coming up from Luning around that drift is going to be faster because he loses less speed because it's a wider turn, and if the boost comes into play, he could lose. So he instead sweeps himself all the way to the outside as well and just keeps Luning in check. And now they're going to serve the first defeat to Seongnam ROX. ROX was hoping to catch up to the KWANGDONGFREECS, but today will not be that day. Meanwhile, MIRAENSEJONG, they return with a revitalized hope to remain in the running for the postseason.
And as we take a look at the match result for that match 8, in speed, it seemed like MIRAENSEJONG, they might be the team to win it, but Seongnam ROX was able to actually win that 3-2. And then in item mode, we talked about MIRAENSEJONG having a weakness there, and they were losing 0-2, but with the miracle turn back, it ended up being 3-2 for MSJ. And finally, this ace match was such a nail-biter, it was Hojin coming out on top in the end.
Yeah, very clutch win. And you know what? I'll admit it. I thought it was over when it was 2-0 in the item mode. When you said they just have to win 3 tracks, I kind of chuckled at myself. But hey, I was wrong. MIRAENSEJONG, there's a reason that a lot of people have high hopes for this team, and it's the fact that they will not give up because they know how good they can be.
And outside of the result of the match today, I feel like both teams have big takeaways here. The fact that Seongnam ROX was able to show that they're able to beat MIRAENSEJONG in speed shows how good they are, just overall as a team in both speed, item, and ace. Whereas MIRAENSEJONG, they proved themselves in item, and they had a redemption in that ace match today with Hojun winning over Looning. It's just a great day for both teams.
Yeah, it did seem like MIRAENSEJONG was that team who was actually a bit more flexible today in the item mode, which is not something that we've said very often for that squad or any of these players individually, quite frankly. So that's good news on their side. And like you said, meanwhile for Seongnam ROX, a lot of their opponents in the regular season kind of laughed at them and said, well, you guys aren't really a pro team. You just have the banner and the support. But now they've proven themselves to say, no, even in just pure speed races, we can keep up with some of the best.
And it's kind of interesting that Seongnam ROX, they've had to play 2 ace matches already. And given that they've played 2 matches so far in the season, right? So they're having a bit of a shaky time right now, especially in the item. That was where it kind of just bit them in their backs and forced them to play in this ace match.
You know, maybe it wasn't Jung. Maybe it's just Seongnam ROX. Maybe they just love ace matches, right? We used to have Jung, of course, during the preseason on that roster, and he was playing ace match after ace match. But now with a new roster, it's still continuing as a trend here, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. But while it's exciting for us, as you mentioned, Peter, if this is a continued trend, it is a little worrisome because it means you're always just barely crossing that finish line here for Seongnam ROX.
Yep, but of course our next match is going to be a match between NUTMITE and KWANGDONGFREECS, excuse me. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back soon.